at the University of Toronto. She was with me in our Toronto studio. And Dr. Saru Sharda is an anesthesiologist and an Associate Dean of Equity and Inclusion at the Faculty of Health Sciences at McMaster University. And she was in our Montreal studio this morning. Any thoughts on this? If you are a doctor and have been in those situations that the two doctors described in the emergency department, or if you're a patient, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this in terms of the makeup of those teams that are operating on you and how they influence not just what happens in the room, but what happens when it comes to patient outcomes. Email us, thecurrent@cbc.ca. Coming up, after your regional update, the lawyers have delivered their closing arguments in the hush money trial. Donald Trump, prosecutors view that Trump is taking part in a conspiracy to undermine the 2016 election. The defense pushed back on that, questioning the credibility of the witnesses. We'll hear more about the case coming up in 90 seconds.
Toronto, a mix of sun and cloud, 14 degrees. We expect a high of 19 today. 7 new schools and boards in Ontario have joined a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against 3 social media giants. The lawsuit was originally launched by the province's 4 largest boards, which include the Toronto District and Catholic School Boards. That happened in March. The suit claims social media products have impacted the way kids think, behave, and learn, with schools left to deal with their effects. School boards in Peel and York have now joined the suit, as well as private schools in Toronto and Mississauga. They are suing Meta, Snapchat, and TikTok. And the City of Toronto now has a tentative revenue-sharing deal with the agency that parking lots. And that agreement with the Toronto Parking Authority avoids possible cuts to popular programs like bike share. More news coming up right here on CBC Radio 1. Mainly cloudy. There's a 30% chance of showers early this morning. It's going to clear this afternoon. You can expect a high of 19 degrees with a high UV index. Clear skies tonight with a low of 9. And Thursday, sunshine and a high of 19 degrees. Peterborough on the Kawarthas clearing this morning and a high of 19. High UV index. Clear tonight with a low of 4. And Thursday, we're looking at sunshine. High of 20 with a high UV index. And that's our forecast.
Hello again, I'm Matt Galloway, and you're listening to The Current. Closing arguments went late into the night, and today the jury is beginning deliberations in Donald Trump's hush money trial. The historic trial of the former president had it all. Allegations from an adult film star, a jilted former fixer, and the specter of both an insurrection and a coming election. Now the world is watching for what happens next. The courthouse yesterday, you had the actor Robert De Niro calling Trump's supporters gangsters. They shouted back that he was a bum. What is the scene like outside the courthouse this morning?
Well, today I think because it's not the closing arguments day, it's a little calmer. There's less of a public line presence here, but it's still less calm is a very relative term when it comes to a Trump trial. And there's still an amazing, array of reporters and security officials, and everyone understands that basically from late morning on, there could be a verdict at any time.
Let's start with the defense, because as I mentioned, the closing arguments ended yesterday. What did we hear from Trump's team?
So what we heard from Trump's team, which is frankly not that surprising, but I think they put more of a point on it, is that the lawyer did it. That this whole entire defense is centered around blaming Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, for this entire thing. And Michael Cohen has enough baggage as a witness, as a person, as a felon, that, that is not a terrible argument to make. I've certainly seen defense cases that had less to work with. So, that was the defense argument.
They called him the GOAT of liars, the greatest of all time of liars.
Yeah, the GOAT, the greatest liar of all time. It's, I think that's the kind of thing that may sound a little bit silly, but, what you're trying to do is stick in the juror's mind and ears, and that's the kind of idea, that's the kind of concept that may work in that sense.
How about the prosecution? In the closing arguments, what is the case that the prosecution has made?
The prosecution case is essentially, you don't really need to believe in Michael Cohen to convict in this case. The prosecution argument is there is...
Devlin Barrett is a reporter with the Washington Post. runners around the globe without a navigational device or the help of a satellite or computer. That was the challenge of the inaugural Ocean Globe race. 14 teams of amateur sailors from around the world selected to make that journey. Catherine Langford was the only Canadian among 242 participants. The race is done. She's back home on the Magdalen Islands in Quebec. Catherine, good morning.
Good morning.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Why did you want to do this?
It was a dream for me to sail around the world. For sure, at 30 years old, I didn't know that it would happen. It was more like a dream that I would think that it was too big for me. But it was.
Have you done anything with this before? Where did the race take place?
It started in September. It was a race in 4 legs. So the first race was from England to South Africa. The second leg was from South Africa to New Zealand. After that, New Zealand to Uruguay. And after that, Uruguay to England. So a full circle.
And the rules of the race, I said earlier, in England, there's no GPS, satellite.
Exactly.
What would you have to guide?
Yeah, it was a sextant, so it was astro navigation. And the race was in the spirit of the first race, sailing food race in 1973. So everything was coming from that time. We didn't have any cell phone on board, no GPS. We had to listen to our music on cassette players.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No Spotify.
No Spotify, and I didn't know how to use the sextant at the first.
So what is that? What is a sextant?
It's a tool that we use to find the angle of the sun through the horizon. So each day we need to take 3 sides to find our position with side reduction table. So like it's quite a big challenge at the beginning, but we get used to it, and it's really beautiful for me. Like we get so used to know where exactly we are so easily. We open our phone, we see.
You said that you were in a small environment with people that weren't your friends, they weren't your
it was not just my grandmother. She was someone really important for me. And I FaceTimed her just before I left England, and she was well. And in the middle of the birth race, I had to satellite phone call my family, and I learned that she was dying suddenly. So I had to say goodbye to her, and just, okay, maybe that was the last time I would talk to her in my life. And at the same time, it was chaos on board. We were taking water, so it was kind of a movie scene, actually. Like everything was falling apart. And when I left the phone, I didn't know if she would survive till I get to Cape Town. So when I arrived in Cape Town, I was really stressed. And I learned that she died 2 days after our call. So that was her last vow.
I'm sorry.
And I mean, like right now I can talk about it, but sometimes it's hard to talk about it. And I really faced a wall when I arrived in South Africa, because also my boyfriend had a sailboat, not a sailboat, but a sailing accident. He worked in the merchant marine like me, so he almost died in an accident in the Arctic. So like I had to take a decision. Okay, do I follow my dream, or do I come back home, because my entire world was falling apart? So yeah, it was not a really good moment, but I had to make the good decision to go back home. So that's why I didn't do like the entire trip around the world. I did 3 races on 4, but I had to find my strength to go back to New Zealand and complete the race. So I'm really proud of it.
You should be. You should be really proud of it. I mean, when you're up against that kind of, when you're put in an extraordinary situation, as you said, these are the hardest things you've ever done. And there's no training for that. There's nothing that can.
No.
What did you learn about yourself in doing that, do you think?
I really practiced the resilience and the patience, because I learned also that I was more solo, just going around and just really curious about the boat, because you're in the middle of the ocean. There's no boats, there's no traffic, there's like sometimes we couldn't see any life for days. So every time that we have like a marine visit or like a whale coming, or like just birds, it's like, okay, we are still a part of this world, we're not alone.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and there's like a connection between little fish that just jump on shore, and sometimes it hits you in the face. It's really beautiful and challenging.
So you're back home now, and you're in one of the most beautiful parts of the country. And the Gulf is a gorgeous thing going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's extraordinary. What do you do now? What happens next? After having done this thing, this was your dream, you did it, it pushed you to the limit and then beyond.
So even if I have another project, like I would love to go around the world alone, but there's costs relate to it. And that would be my other dream, to go around solo, but we'll see what's next for me.
You should be really proud of what you pulled off. It's quite something.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Thank
amazing.
you.
It's great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Catherine Langford is from the Magdalene Islands, and as you just heard, returned from around the world sailing race. That's the current for this Wednesday. How do you follow that? Well, we have a story, a doozy of a story to leave you with this morning. It is a story about a plot to force the sale of Graceland. Graceland, the mansion of Elvis Presley. A mysterious company tried to stake claim to the fortune of Elvis Presley. It appears that they were actually scammers from Nigeria. They communicated with the New York Times, and the alleged ringleader said that his network preys on the dead to make fraudulent claims. We figure out how to steal, said the ringleader. The problem was they picked the wrong property. Imagine picking Graceland as the property of all properties that you're going to steal. A judge blocked the sale for now, You can read more about this very strange story in the New York Times. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you with this. Not a song about the resident, but a song about the place. I'm Matt Galloway. Thanks for listening to The Current. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Mississippi Delta was shining like a national guitar. Personality from a young age, and everyone in the community knew me as a dancer before, I knew what dancing was. To get used to, because there wasn't a lot of room for interpretation. There's only one way to do it.
And you were sort of used to interpretation in your dancing.
Absolutely, it's all about self-expression. But in ballet, it's the opposite. You have to be so disciplined.
Even though you were like a baby, or like you were a child, it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't want to dance. I don't know if I want to dance ballet.
No, because dancing ballet was linked with greater opportunities for me at a young age, and I think I was fortunate enough to understand that. As difficult as it was to be in such a foreign that what I able to do it. It never felt like impossible. And two, I felt in my soul that this was the one thing that would lead me to great opportunities and to make something to my life. everything was huge. The cars were big, the roads were big, the people were big. It was summertime, it was hot, and it was like, you just felt like the rhythm was different, everything was faster. So much excitement, everything was exciting. Everything was exciting. I remember I landed
Being 11 years old and being that far away from my family, it must have been, the homesickness must have been real.
Yeah, it was. You know, I think as you're growing up in my industry, it requires so much discipline.
Yeah.
And so much of yourself, and it takes away so much of your life in a lot of ways. I was grateful that I had that to keep me going. But, you know, it's hard to grow up in a different culture that is so different from the one you knew and idolized growing up, in a sense, and not being kind of in it. Those were the difficult moments, but, you know, my mom and I, they're tight, you know, so it was never her specifically. Obviously, I miss her hugs, you know, I miss her just like jokes, but it was just more being around my people and being around the music and being around my cousins and my nieces and nephews. It was the whole picture that made me homesick a lot.
So when you come to the National Ballet School and you start learning, and again, you're not crazy about ballet, this is something you kind of did because it was a nice opportunity for you. Can you give me an example of when it clicked at the National Ballet School?
Ooh, when it clicked, I would say probably going into grade 9. So, what is that, 14?
Yeah.
Is when it clicked to me. I think my social circle at that point was pretty clear. And I was, you know, I started feeling comfortable. You know, the teachers were, you know, that's when you also start learning new things, and ballet gets a little harder, so there's new challenges, you know. But, you know, I didn't know that I could also join a company, so there was a point where I felt like I was just doing it and I was good at it. But there's so many other aspects to being classical ballet dancer, right? Like, at the back of my head always just massage.
neighborhoods like this. Quiet neighborhood, just far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. I can live here comfortably, man. This is my kind of place. This is my kind of place. It makes you think more, it makes you meditate more, it makes the hidden talent in you come out. This is my kind of place. War against nation. When did this all begin? Where will it end? It feels like total destruction of its solution. Maybe no use. No one can stop them now. And no use. Nobody can stop. Move. Every no use. No one can stop them now. tojo. Tila itoto.
Ryan Gosling is just coming off this really hot year for Barbie, and so I'm going to use that communication method. I'm going to use those channels that we've already established in order to connect to those people, because they're actually willing to go to the theater. I kind of want to zoom out for a moment, because I do think Barbie and Oppenheimer do cast a large shadow over this whole conversation, Bilga. Because people, even though everyone went to Barbie and Oppenheimer and it was this big box office phenomenon, people still spent $2 billion less going to the movies than they did before the pandemic last year. Do you think we'll go back to see movies in theaters the way that we used to?
I don't know if we'll go back to seeing them the way that we used to, say, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we're doing now, which is writing all the think pieces about what's wrong with the summer. And then, these two movies, everything's fixed, never mind, everybody go back home. But no, it's, those films are a phenomenon. Every once in a while you will have phenomena. But an industry that is increasingly reliant on out-of-the-box successes like that can't survive in the way that it survive.
Studios are looking at a movie and saying, if I put $200 million in, I can get $600 million. It's sort of like a little slot machine that trickles your money. That's kind of the model that has been developed maybe for the last 6 years or so. And yes, of course, the possibility. How much going to the movie theaters has to do with the movies that are being great.
They know how to pepper it. They're like, let's get people out there. Let's get Kristen Stewart talking about the female gaze. That makes things feel special and exciting instead of acting like this movie is for everyone. And I feel like concentrate on the niches, right? But back when we had mid-budget and small-budget movies, you could just have a weird, and sometimes they would blow up. Sometimes, I think, Beetlejuice was a mid-budget movie, wasn't it? Yeah. It's a cultural phenomenon now. And that's the thing. It's with these weirder little movies, filmmakers were able to take risks, and you see some of that on Netflix with also needs a certain pressure. I wish more things were doing before, which is making really wild movies. And sometimes they work. If they don't work, it's just
because it makes movies a little bit less valuable to look at. We sort of talk about them as less pieces of art that people are